You know what your problem is? I ain't got no problem, man. Don't tell me what my problem is. You know?
Fans have been watching Scrappy's tumultuous path on screen for years, including his career and family relationship ups and downs. However, no one could have foreseen the day when Scrappy's actions would tarnish his reputation. It all started with a particularly heated disagreement with Khaotic, a cast member who was renowned for his brazen demeanor and propensity to cause trouble, and who had never been afraid to voice his opinions. Known for his fierce temper and devotion to those in his immediate circle, Scrappy had long been a mainstay of love and hip-hop Atlanta. Were disparaged, and what started out as a disagreement swiftly escalated into a full-fledged fight. The fact that this wasn't simply another tense dispute, but that this was a man who had gone too far behind the cameras, astounded the producers and crew who had been there during the scene. As the tension mounted, Scrappy, who had always been known to lose his temper easily, was nearing his breaking point. In a fit of rage, Scrappy's threats would ultimately cement his doom despite the two men's acerbic exchange of words. He was more than just a verbal threat of chaos. There was little space for interpretation in the words themselves, and his tone was ominous. In the love and hip-hop franchise, there was no room for tolerance. When it came to threats and violence, reality television has always operated under the guise of chaos and trauma. But there were limits. The authorities quickly determined that Scrappy's outburst had crossed those lines. Scrappy, one of the show's most well-known characters, lost his job. Swift made the choice after carefully considering the possible consequences for the cast and crew's safety, as well as the show's reputation. Since Scrappy had been a member of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta from the beginning, and the show had been essential to his career due to the exposure it offered, it was a terrible blow. An opportunity to highlight his life, music, and intricate relationships with his family. But now that the news has come to light, all of that is at risk because of a moment of weakness. Some fans were furious with Scrappy for becoming irate and causing conflicts, while others were devastated. Some were disappointed by how quickly the show had acted, while others saw Scrappy's firing as a reminder of the cost of his anger and his inability to manage it in a moment of emotion. The thin line reality stars usually walk between amusement and personal repercussions was reflected in this. Scrappy said nothing and pondered his actions for a while. His public image had always continued to appear on the show in spite of the conflict between him and Scrappy, undeterred by the aftermath. For the first time in a long time, Scrappy was no longer the main focus of the show, but it would nevertheless go on without him. The wrath that had once shielded him now stood in the way of his achievement, and the lesson was tough but essential. He had been a self-assured, blustery man, but the truth of what had transpired began to sink in behind the scenes. His exclusion from hip-hop and Love-I.
I probably went too hard or something, took something the wrong way or something like that, you know? So I want to say, I'm sorry to Khaotic. No, we're getting somewhere. We're not. Because I can give a Because let me tell you something. When a motherfucker go with me and he feel like I'm not a good person, I feel the same way he is. So we on the same page.
No, but he does not feel that.
He just said it. He said, hey, if you feel like I'm not a good person in your life, then you need to stay like that and don't stand like that. And we don't stand on it.
No.
Let's stand on it.
No.
He don't stand on it.
No, he said not. Stop. He did not say that.
What I said was, if you feel like I'm a bad person to you, then
This is not about that right now. This is about you. How do you feel about him?
I never said I had a problem with him.
No, this what he do. He say something crazy and he's like, oh, I ain't got no beef. I ain't got no love. Khaotic always trying to play a victim. He'll start then he want to be like, I don't want no beef, man. If you got an issue, stand on it. If not, sit down and shut up, bro.
At the end of the day, like I said, bro, it don't even really matter.
Cuz I'm trying to goddamn, he want everybody like,
oh my God.
No, because we're so grown, we're making a assessment of our own thoughts here.
I be watching Cuz, I be like, oh.
Okay, so wait.
You know what your problem is? I ain't got no problem, man. I'll beat your ass. You had a million times to do it. Why you on TV, man? You a clown. You got a problem with me. You a clown. Keep talking that boy.
Although Scrappy's family and job had their ups and downs, nothing could have foreseen the day when his own actions would bring him into disrepute. It all started with a particularly contentious dispute with a rowdy cast member who was notorious for his brazen demeanor and propensity to cause trouble. He and Scrappy got into a heated argument about a little matter that soon escalated. The dispute swiftly escalated into a full-fledged confrontation as insults were hurled and words were exchanged. As the stress mounted, Scrappy, who was always prone to losing his temper, was at his breaking point. Although the two men spoke harshly to each other, Scrappy's threats were what? The producers and crew who had witnessed the situation were taken aback that a man had gone too far and that this was not just another tense argument. His tone was dangerous, and he threatened disaster in a way that was more than just words. There wasn't much space for interpretation in the words themselves. In a fit of wrath, this would finally clinch his doom.
Whole time, he the one who called me out my name, disrespecting me, talking gangster. I never talked gangster. I never threatened you. I don't play no victim. I just don't do all that fake gangster talking and all that. You came back and talking gangster. First of all, if I say anything sick or say anything crazy out my mouth.
Behind the cameras, things happened quickly. The Love and Hip Hop brand had a zero-tolerance policy for threats and violence, despite the fact that reality television had long operated under the guise of chaos and drama. Scrappy's outburst had crossed these lines, and the authorities swiftly reached a decision. Scrappy, one of the show's most recognizable characters, had to depart. Scrappy had been a part of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, so Swift's decision to terminate him was a hard blow, even though it wasn't made immediately. The choice was made after giving considerable thought to how it would affect the show's reputation and the cast and crew's safety. The show had been an essential aspect of his career from the beginning, giving him a stage on which to display his life, music, and complicated relationships with his family. Fans were devastated when the news was announced, though, and some were furious with Scrappy for losing his cool and starting a fight. More than merely the termination of a TV program, Scrappy's firing served as a reminder of the price of his rage and his incapacity to restrain it during a passionate moment. Even while some viewers were dissatisfied with the show's quick action, which reflected the F-line reality star's usual juggling act between entertainment and personal repercussions, Scrappy persisted in the days that followed. The conflict between him and Scrappy persisted in the background even as he kept making appearances on the show. For the first time in a long time, Scrappy was no longer the center of attention, but the performance would still go on without him. The lesson was tough but important for Scrappy. The rage that had protected him now stood in the way of his achievement. His outward image had always been one of confidence and bluster, but behind the scenes, the truth of what had transpired started to set in. He quietly reflected on his conduct, the loss of both Love and his place in hip-hop,